Leviticus Chapter 13, verse 1 to 59. Verse 1. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron.
Verse 2. When anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin that may be a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest.
Verse 3. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling skin disease. When the priest examines that person, he shall pronounce them ceremonially unclean.
Verse 4. If the shiny spot on the skin is white but does not appear to be more than skin deep and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. Verse 5. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days.
Verse 6. On the 7th day, the priest is to examine them again. And if the sore has faded and has not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. Verse 7. But if the rash does spread in their skin after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. Verse 8. The priest is to examine that person, and if the rash has spread in the skin, he shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. Verse 9. When anyone has a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. Verse 10. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned the hair white, and if there is a raw flesh in the swelling. Verse 11. It is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He is not to isolate them, because they are already unclean. Verse 12. If the disease breaks out all over their skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the affected person from head to foot. Verse 13. The priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are clean. Verse 14. But whenever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. Verse 15. When the priest sees the raw flesh, he shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean, they have a defiling disease. Verse 16. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. Verse 17. The priest is to examine them, and if the sores have turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. Verse 18. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals. Verse 19. And in the place where the boil was, a white swelling or reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. Verse 20. The priest is to examine it, and if it appears to be more than skin deep and the hair in it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce that person unclean. It is a defiling skin disease that has broken out where the boil was. Verse 21. But if, when the priest examines it, there is no white hair in it, and it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. Verse 22. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling disease. Verse 23. But if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it is only a scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. Verse 24. When someone has a burn on their skin, and a reddish white or a white spot appears in the raw flesh of the burn. Verse 25. The priest is to examine the spot,
and if the hair in it has turned white, and it appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. Verse 26. But if the priest examine it, and there is no white hair in the spot, and if it is not more than skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. Verse 27. On the 7th day the priest is to examine that person, and if it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. Verse 28. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a scar from the burn. Verse 29. If a man or woman has a sore on their head or chin. Verse 30. The priest is to examine the sore, and if it appears to be more than skin deep, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease on the head or chin. Verse 31. But if, when the priest examined the sore, it does not seem to be more than skin deep, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. Verse 32. On the 7th day the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread and there is no yellow hair in it, and it does not appear to be more than skin deep. Verse 33. Then the man or woman must shave themselves, except for the affected area, and the priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days. Verse 34. On the 7th day the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin and appears to be no more than skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. Verse 35. But if the sore does spread in the skin after they are pronounced clean. Verse 36. The priest is to examine them, and if he finds that the sore has spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair. They are unclean. Verse 37. If, however, the sore is unchanged so far as the priest can see, and if black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed. They are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. Verse 38. When a man or woman has white spots on the skin. Verse 39. The priest is to examine them, and if the spots are dull white, it is a harmless rash that has broken out on the skin. They are clean. Verse 40. A man who has lost his hair and is bald is clean. Verse 41. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. Verse 42. But if he has a reddish white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. Verse 43. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on his head or forehead is reddish white like a defiling skin disease. Verse 44. The man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of the sore on his head. Verse 45. Anyone with such a defiling disease must wear torn clothes. Let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of their face, and cry out, Unclean, unclean. Verse 46. As long as they have the disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. Verse 47. As for any fabric that is spoiled with a defiling mold, any woolen or linen clothing. Verse 48. Any woven or knitted material of linen or wool, any leather or any made of leather. Verse 49. If the affected area in the fabric, the leather, the woven or knitted material, or any leather article is greenish or reddish, it is a defiling mold and must be shown to the priest. Verse 50. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. Verse 51. On the 7th day he is to examine it, and if the mold has spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather, whatever its use, it is a persistent defiling mold. The article is unclean. Verse 52. He must burn the fabric, the woven or knitted material of wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled because the defiling mold is persistent. The article must be burned. Verse 53. But if, when the priest examines it, the mold has not spread in the fabric, the woven or knitted material, or the leather article. Verse 54. He shall order that the spoiled article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. Verse 55. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it again, and if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it, no matter which sides of the fabric has been spoiled. Verse 56. If, when the priest examines it, the mold has faded after the article has been washed, he is to tear the spoiled part out of the fabric, the leather, or the woven or knitted material. Verse 57. But if it appears in the fabric, and the woven or knitted material, or in the leather article, it is a spreading mold. Whatever has the mold must be burnt. Verse 58. Any fabric, woven or knitted material, or any leather article that has been washed and is rid of the mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. Verse 59. These are the regulations concerning defiling molds in woolen or linen clothing, woven or knitted material, or any leather article, for pronouncing them clean or unclean. Leviticus Chapter 14, verse 1 to 57. Verse 1. The Lord said to Moses. Verse 2. These are the regulations for any deceased person at the time of their ceremonial cleansing, when they are brought to the priest. Verse 3. The priest is to go outside the camp and examine them, if they have been healed of their defiling skin disease. Verse 4. The priest shall order that 2 live clean birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be brought for the person to be cleansed. Verse 5. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be killed over fresh water in a clay pot. Verse 6. He is then to take the live bird and dip it, together with the cedar wood, the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop, into the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. Verse 7. 7 times he shall sprinkle the one to be cleansed of the defiling disease, and then pronounce them clean. After that, he is to release the live bird in the open fields. Verse 8. The person to be cleansed must wash their clothes, shave off all their hair, and bath with water. Then they will be ceremonially clean. After this, they may come into the camp, but they must stay outside their tent for 7 days. Verse 9. On the 7th day, they must shave off all their hair. They must shave their head, their beard, their eyebrows, and the rest of their hair. They must wash their clothes and bath themselves with water, and they will be clean. Verse 10. On the 8th day, they must bring 2 male lambs and 1 old lamb a year old, each without defect, along with 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. Verse 11. The priest who pronounced them clean shall present both the one to be cleansed and their offering before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Verse 12. Then the priest is to take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering, along with a log of oil. He shall wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. Verse 13. He is to slaughter the lamb in the sanctuary area where the sin offering and the burnt offering are slaughtered. Like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is most holy. Verse 14. The priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of their right hands, and on the big toe on their right foot. Verse 15. The priest shall then take some of the log of oil, pour it in the palms of his own left hand. Verse 16. Dip his right forefinger into the oil in his palm, and with his fingers sprinkle some of it before the Lord 7 times. Verse 17. The priest is to put some of the oil remaining in his palm on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of their right hands, and on the big toe of their right foot, on top of the blood of the guilt offering. Verse 18. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed and make atonement for them before the Lord. Verse 19. Then the priest is to sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from their uncleanness. After that, the priest shall slaughter the burnt offering. Verse 20. And offer it on the altar, together with a grain offering, and make atonement for them, and they will be clean. Verse 21. If, however, they are poor and cannot afford this, they must take one male lamb as a guilt offering to be waved to make atonement for them, together with a tenth of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, a log of oil. Verse 22. And 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, such as they can afford, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Verse 23. On the 8th day they must bring them for their cleansings to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting before the Lord. Verse 24. The priest is to take the lamb for the guilt offering, together with a log of oil, and wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. Verse 25. He shall slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering, and take some of its blood, and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of their right hands, and on the big toe of their right foot. Verse 26. The priest is to pour some of the oil into the palms of his own left hand. Verse 27. And with his right forefinger sprinkle some of the oils from his palm 7 times before the Lord. Verse 28. Some of the oil in his palm he is to put on the same places he put the blood of the guilt offering, on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of the right hands, and on the big toe of the right foot. Verse 29. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed, to make atonement for them before the Lord. Verse 30. Then he shall sacrifice the doves or the young pigeons, such as the person can afford. Verse 31. One as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, together with a grain offering. In this way the priest will make atonement before the Lord on behalf of the one to be cleansed. Verse 32. These are the regulations for anyone who has a defiling skin disease and who cannot afford the regular offerings for their cleansing. Verse 33. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron. Verse 34. When you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your possession, and I put a spreading mold in a house in that land. Verse 35. The owner of the house must go and tell the priest, I have seen something that looks like a defiling mold in my house. Verse 36. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes in to examine the mold, so that nothing in the house will be pronounced unclean. After this, the priest is to go in and inspect the house.
Verse 37. He is to examine the mold on the walls, and if it has greenish or reddish depressions that appear to be deeper than the surface of the wall. Verse 38. The priest shall go out the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. Verse 39. On the 7th day the priest shall return to inspect the house, if the mold has spread on the walls. Verse 40. He is to order that the contaminated stones be turned out and thrown into an unclean place outside the town. Verse 41. He must have all the inside walls of the house scraped and the material that is scraped off damp into an unclean place outside the town. Verse 42. Then they are to take other stones to replace this and take new clay and plaster the house. Verse 43. If the defiling mold reappears in the house after the stones have been turned out and the house scraped and plastered. Verse 44. The priest is to go and examine it, and if the mold is spread in the house, it is a persistent defiling mold, the house is unclean. Verse 45. It must be turned down, its stones, timbers, and all the plaster, and taken out of the towns to an unclean place. Verse 46. Anyone who goes into the house while it is closed up will be unclean till evening. Verse 47. Anyone who sleep or eat in the house must wash their clothes. Verse 48. But if the priest comes to examine it and the mold has not spread after the house has been plastered, he shall pronounce the house clean, because the defiling mold is gone. Verse 49. To purify the house he is to take 2 birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop. Verse 50. He shall kill one of the birds over fresh waters in a clay pot. Verse 51. Then he is to take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet yarns, and the live bird, dip them into the blood of the dead birds and the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. Verse 52. He shall purify the house with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Verse 53. Then he is to release the live birds in the open fields outside the town. In this way he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. Verse 54. These are the regulations for any defiling skin disease, for a sore. Verse 55. For defiling molds in public or in a house. Verse 56. And for a swelling, a rash, or a shiny spot. Verse 57. To determine when something is clean or unclean, these are the regulations for defiling skin disease and defiling molds.